right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Dance to the Music, to another episode. Thank you if you've been listening and watching on YouTube or on Spotify. Thank you for doing so. You can follow and hit all the subscribe buttons and like buttons, all the things. And yeah, like I said, welcome to another episode. Today's guest is none other than Cinthie from Berlin. Hi.
Hello.
Welcome. And before we get into things, I have to mention that both our first language is German, just so whoever listens and watches. So if I throw out a word that sounds weird and does not make sense to you, I happens by accident, probably.
Same for me.
Yeah, and I will make sure that at the end when I upload it and the transcription and everything will make sense to you. For whoever does not speak German. Okay, so now let's get started. First of all, thank you for coming and biking here, as you just said. Very sporty. How are you feeling today? You're in New York for a reason, obviously.
Yes, so first and foremost, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure is all mine. We just biked here. I'm here with my lovely husband, and
Yes.
I'm currently on tour in the US. So we already did. Let me recap this. We had San Francisco first. Then it was LA, then Portland, and then we flew to New York. And yesterday we did some sightseeing, and also my husband, he hasn't been here for many years. I think last time was 1999.
Oh wow, we're gonna have a different conversation off the camera.
So, and it's his birthday this week, so I said, okay,
Okay, I just find that
I'm gonna bring
out.
him. So we are very well, of course. The weather is nice, and we're doing nice things. Some sightseeing, and later go some record shopping, and then have some nice food in Chinatown. So yeah, doing the full program.
And you will be playing at Public Records.
I almost forgot. On Saturday.
Which
forgot the most important
which
thing.
when this is coming out, this already passed. So we're looking forward to that, of course. You have done so many interviews before where you tell your whole journey from the beginnings and everything. So I hope I'm not repeating too much, but I do want to ask a few questions in regard, because I feel like what I found out is we are similar in age. So I know you grew up in Saarbrücken, which is, for people who don't know, it's a French border, very close to France, and kind of, if I look at the map, close, not far away from cities that at least used to have U.S. Army bases.
Yeah, Frankfurt.
Yeah, Frankfurt and Karlsruhe, if it's not too far.
But I think Frankfurt is maybe the most popular because we have the big airport, and I think especially
Right.
lots of people from the US, they always flew to Frankfurt, and then,
So the reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm wondering, again, close to age, I'm wondering what your first musical introductions were. Were you kind of like me, also, was hip hop and 90s R&B a thing for you, or were you into completely other things? It was pre-YouTube, pre-Spotify, pre-everything, so I'm wondering what you were into back then.
Yeah, I remember, when I shaped my musical taste, it was in the beginning of the 90s. But I was more into, the whole pop stuff. And my parents, they always bought records, but mostly the top 40 records. And it was pretty much everything. You could find some early house stuff, like Steve Silk-Hurley was on one on the records.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And but then it was Michael Jackson and... what else was popular back then? I cannot remember. Yeah, just the top 40 stuff, everything from rock to whatever. And I think I started really shape my taste when I became a teenager, when I was 13, 14. And then suddenly this whole house music thing started. And I was also into Depeche Mode, which was already kind of electronic, but a bit more darker stuff. And then, of course, I was 14, 15, 16, started going out to clubs and rave parties and stuff, and then I got totally infected with house music. And also when I turned 16, I got offered to work in a record store, and that was really a gold mine. So we got all this stuff over, and especially a lot of stuff from the US. That was really my thing. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's very special, because I feel like back then also, maybe not when you're 16, but even earlier, electronic, I can't even call it house music, but what we used to have is remember Too Unlimited and like
yeah, I was also a big
Hadaway
fan.
and
Yeah,
like all
this
these
Eurodance,
Snap
yeah.
Eurodance,
Yeah,
exactly. So my next question would have been like, how did you find the good stuff? But you just said you started working in a record store and you kind of
yeah,
immediately,
yeah.
I'm assuming, were able to.
I mean, I think it was just like flowing, you know. Obviously, I was also into, you know, Too Unlimited and also Snap. Snap was also produced in Frankfurt. And yeah, when I went out to the first kind of clubs, it was more like Sunday afternoon, more for like, I don't want to say kids, but it was pretty much for kids, teenagers, you know. So you heard more the commercial stuff, but every now and then they would throw in like a good track. And I was like, oh, this is nice. And then I met some people there, and one of the guys, was like 2 years old, and was like, yeah, we go to this other club, and you want to join? It's more like something in the night, and I joined, and there they played like the really cool stuff, so really club music, not like discotheque music, you know. So I always divide this, and then I was like, wow, this is really cool, and then also the mixing was different. It was more like it was more about the groove rather than just like proper pop songs, like Eurodance almost was, you know, with the rappers and then also with the lyrics, and I had some kind of song structure. And then, yeah, I started to collect also records, and then, yeah, I was lucky enough that the record store asked me to work there.
Okay, that's nice. I hope I'm probably skipping a few years or like trying not to have you repeat the same things over and over. But you said you started working when you were 16, and then I think you mentioned before also started DJing through the years, or like in your late teenage years.
Yeah.
Eventually got offered a local gig, and then to Berlin. I'm like trying to skip a few years here, but I'm also not really, you don't have to tell me the exact years, but what I'm actually interested in is, you know, when you're 17, 18, you finish usually, not even usually, but it's the age where we finish school, we either go to university, or we're kind of in life where we have to figure out what we're going to do in life, or at least our parents kind of asked us. So I'm wondering, what, besides you working in the record store, was there any ambition to already be in music or be that DJ, or like what were you trying to be at that age?
I think back then it was different, because I think it was not so much like a real job, you know, like DJing was for most of us more like a hobby, a place where we met friends and stuff like that. And of course some earned some good money, you know, they could make a living out of it, but it was not like today that people are like, they see someone and then they're like, oh, I want to be a DJ too, and they think you just fly first class every time and you play in front of like 10,000 people all the time. It's not really that, you know. You have like small clubs, sometimes no one's coming, and you have small crowds, sometimes you fly with the shittiest airlines and stuff like that. So it's really like a journey. And but I mean, I finished school, and I also did not really know what I wanted to do. So I was thinking about stuff, and then maybe wanted to do something with animals, you know, or if, I don't know, or just work in an office or something. And then luckily my teacher, I had some special classes with him for programming, and he was like, why don't you become a software developer? And I was like, okay, I never thought about that, but this was something I really enjoyed doing. And he was also saying that, you know, I'm really good at thinking around the corner and doing those programs. I was like, yeah, actually that's really good. So and that's actually my real job. So I finished school, then moved to Berlin, and obviously I had the connection to like some music groups there, because in the club where I was a resident, we invited a lot of people from Berlin, and one of them, I made some records for them later, and they were based in Berlin, so I already had the connection. And I have to say, this DJ stuff just financed my studies, you know, and it was just a hobby, you know. It was just like, during the week I went to university, and then at the weekend I was like, oh, thank God, you know, take off all the stress and play records, have a glass of wine, meet the friends, you know, and and also Berlin was a big playground for me, or for us, and that was pretty much it.
But when you moved to Berlin, then you said you finished, and then you had like a day job, like a job that I know eventually you mentioned you worked at Ep.18, but before that I'm sure there were other maybe jobs that you always did besides DJing? Or
Yeah. I mean, I never wanted to be like a full-time DJ because I thought like, it's maybe better to keep it as a hobby because then it's maybe more fun, you're more independent. But, while I studied, I did all kinds of jobs. So I did some, like the typical promotion jobs. I was working at some kind of computer fairs and stuff like that. And but luckily also had some good gigs, which paid me some money, but then obviously I spent it mostly in records. And so there was not so much left. And so I had some funny side jobs. And then I finished my studies. And I had my first proper job in a company that did some software development. Also, I worked for Ableton, but that was later. I think that must have been, I quit my job exactly 10 years ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
Still.
much. And since then, we need to knock on wood, I didn't have to go back, which is, of course, nice, but I really quit my job at the very, very last, step, because I was like, okay, I have the label, it's going really well, I have that amount of gigs, I have some savings in the band, and I had the feeling that it was at a point where I could at least try to make a living out of it. And then I was also a little bit older and a little bit more mature, and I was like, I think now I'm really ready to do this, because when I was 18, 19, I was like, I like to play, and my music taste was good, but it was not like today, that you have all this knowledge and like this kind of sophisticated taste and stuff like that. So I think it's good that I just did this as a full-time job 10 years ago. I think, I don't know, if I would have been too young, I'm not sure if it would have been the right decision.
Makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about Berlin a little bit, especially since you moved there a long time ago. Yeah. And Berlin now, I'm sure, is completely different than it used to be. Yeah. Not just from a DJ perspective, like you working there and having your store there, but also from like going out. When you moved there, you said you went out a lot and you have parties and da-da-da. I'm wondering how you would describe that change of like the dance floors that you've experienced and the crowd and the people that go out from back then when you moved there to today or the last years, maybe.
I think nowadays it's all a bit more cleaned up. Because back in the days, more houses were broken or abandoned. So, I've been throwing illegal parties. So we just went into a house and checked it out, It looked like it's not going to break together. Or put a sound system in, and that was pretty much it, And you could come as you are. And it was like all about the music. And I think nowadays, because also the music is so popular and I would almost say it's like the new kind of pop music.
Do you think it's here still like sometimes considered what we play underground music, but do you feel like it's not really as underground anymore as it
I don't think so. I think especially in Europe it's not so underground anymore, even though you have people that claim themselves at underground, and then when you listen to the music it's a lot of like pop edits and stuff like that, and it's like, it's nice, but now we have the point again, where I, how do you call it, where I see two different things. So there's club music, and there's also music that's supposed to be played at discotheques. It's more commercial. It's more for like people that want to go there and want to find a partner, or they want to get drunk and stuff. And I think the clubbing, the culture is a bit more than that. It's also not, it's also about the DJ who's playing, who's providing the good soundtrack for the night. But I think we have a lot of people, they're DJing and everything is circling around the DJ, as like a pop star or something, And I would consider myself more being on the underground side of things, I know, okay, I have some fans and stuff like that, but I see myself on the same level as the crowd, And this is also my favorite places to play, when I'm on the same level with the crowds. I also like festivals, but sometimes it's like, you have a look and it's like, where's the crowd? And you cannot interact so well with the crowd, I think. And I think at the moment in Europe we have this, it's a little bit more divided, with like more commercial stuff, and also the music that's released is just aimed also for the radio, and maybe also some people maybe also hope to score like a sync deal with a clothes brand and stuff like that. And while the other side is more like, okay, it's all about the groove, it's like having a good time in a club, no phones allowed and stuff like that,
Okay. So my next question would be, what is something specific that you pay attention to when you are playing? And you just mentioned that you prefer to be on the same level. You don't want to be up on stage, like the pop star. You prefer to be on the same level. But as far as like you providing the sound, as you say, what do you, and obviously I know it probably depends on the city, the venue, the time of day you play, but what is something that you generally pay attention to or look for maybe in the crowd, or like just to have the perfect environment for you to play?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. Sometimes you have some gigs you're really looking forward to because you heard good things and stuff like that, and then you arrive and you're just like, it's not how I expected it to be, and then the next day you have another gig and you didn't expect anything. It's just really like off the hook. Like the people were super nice. You have people like voguing. You have like a proper party, you know. And it was really funny because I played in LA this week and I was just really off the hook. I played 4 hours. I could pretty much play whatever I wanted. That the crowd was so into it, and then I had some other gigs in Europe. Not many, luckily, but sometimes, you know, I would say like 2 out of 10 gigs, it's like, okay, so I think my music was not the fitting, or, you know, or the people were looking for something else, or maybe they liked it, but I didn't show so many feelings or something. Looked more like people were just checking their phones and stuff for the whole time, you know, so, which can also happen. So for me, like a good party is really when I'm on the same level with the people, and obviously I play records. So people can always come up and say like, oh, what's this tune? I'll show them the record. I mean, some people are shazamming, but with records sometimes they can't find it. And yeah, that's for me like the perfect party, and it doesn't have to be super big. I think like 300 to 600 people is perfect, but you know, they have to be really into it. And so that's, for me the perfect environment. And but then, as I said, sometimes there's parties where you feel like, okay, I think my music is too housey, and people were more looking for something more like tech house or more snare rolls or whatever. And I mean, I also have that, but I don't provide this with like every track, or sometimes the people are just there to film you, and you're like, you have a bad day when you feel like bloated or something, like, oh my god, no, I have to breathe in the whole set, or
things we go through that people don't know.
It's just, you know, sometimes things change. Like back in the days you were just going there jeans and t-shirt, you know, it's fine, and nowadays you have to think about what you're wearing because they want to film you and stuff like that. It's like a bit of a different thing sometimes.
You mentioned a lot of things, and I try to remember, and I might just ask, you know, some follow-up questions. Mm-hmm. Is there some, just out of curiosity, is there like a favorite city that you like to play? And when I say city, might be too big. Like, is there a favorite venue even? And if you don't have one, it's totally fine. Yeah. I'm just wondering also that you might mentally, how do you prepare yourself when now you said you're on tour in the US, which I'm sure is different from European clubs, and even in Europe, obviously, there's different countries, there's different, you know, the crowds are different in each time. Is there, even though, like you said, sometimes you don't know, and your expectations are maybe, you know, they don't come to fruition. But generally, is there something that you do mentally to prepare yourself? Like, oh, I'm going to San Francisco. I'm going there. That I don't know, for whatever reason, you tell yourself how it's going to be or what you do in order to prepare yourself, besides packing the records.
I mean, luckily in most of the cities, I got invited like a second or third time, so I already kind of know what to expect. So for example, like I said, LA is a no-brainer, you know, I have my crowd there and it's nice and I can play what I want, you know. Also San Francisco, or I would say in the US in general, it's the people seem to be a bit more into the music I play. I mean, also in Europe, but I think in Europe sometimes it's so saturated, you know, you have so many artists, so many festivals and stuff like that. But I mean, there's some clubs, or how can I explain it? I think I had one club I was invited twice, and the first time I played, and I think I played good music, but I had the feeling there was a little something missing, you know. And then when I played the second time, I was bringing a few more tracks that are a bit more well known, and I was like, sprinkling them in. And then I had this, what I wanted from the crowd, just dancing, but sometimes, as a DJ, you also sometimes want to have the hands up, not all the time, of course. And I was like, it's cool, was really nice. I really understood the crowd there, And that's what you have sometimes. Sometimes you play once and then you're like, oh, I expected it like this, but it was like that. And then for the next time you prepare a bit differently. Not saying that I suddenly play different kind of music, but I still play my stuff. But sometimes, I don't know, you feel like, okay, at the end you can play a few harder tracks, or you also need like one hit in the middle, something everyone knows, and then you just put the hands up, and so, yeah.
How you've been playing for a while now.
Yeah.
How has your approach to DJing changed over the years? You said in the beginning it wasn't, you always saw it as a hobby almost, and now you're a professional.
Yeah.
So how do you, what is your mindset now compared to, not when you started, but like over the years, because we go through all the emotions.
Yeah. To be honest, I feel like it's still my hobby, but I don't want to have it sound like I'm not a professional, because sometimes when you say, it's my hobby, it sounds like, I don't care, but I care a lot, But it's something that, fills me up with joy, and it's something when I have a lot of stress, like during the week, I play and then my brain is completely like restart. I can really restart my brain, and it's it's just calming me. It's really nice, and can be creative, and I wouldn't say I changed much since I started. It's still pretty much the same. And also my husband is often, he's asking me, are you nervous? And I'm like, no, I'm not nervous. I'm just more like excited, in terms of like, I'm not scared. I'm more like curious to see how it goes, and how people like the music and stuff. And then, of course, from the record shop I run, I pick certain records, and then in my head I'm like, oh, when I play this record, I know everyone will love it, and these things you have in your head. And I think I didn't change much. I still have this old school mentality, that clubbing is just where you see your friends, or you see like-minded people. You provide the music. People dance and get into some kind of rhythm, have a good time, and also meeting like-minded people and stuff like that. But of course, I try to be professional, so I try to be in time, I try not to be fucked up, I try to play good, all this stuff. And so that changed, because obviously, when you fly somewhere and then the promoter paid the flight and you get the fee, of course you want to deliver the best you can.
You just mentioned the whole international part, and I'm wondering, since you've traveled a lot, right? How has it? And it might seem a repetitive question, but you mentioned earlier, the phone and how people want to record and all that stuff, which now obviously you can't, unless there's a policy with no phones allowed. You can't really. It's going to be there, right? The phone. Other than that, have you seen? I don't know, do you play in Berlin often as well, since this is your hometown?
Yeah.
Okay. So either or, Berlin or more international, how has the dance floor changed for you? How, besides the phone, is there anything else that really stands out? I'm like, wow, that hasn't happened 20 years ago. Or, good or bad, it doesn't have to be.
I think that I think definitely Berlin is special. Also, like the German scene is special. I think Germans. I think it's in our nature. We are more like low key, and like we don't make a big thing out of success. It's like whatever I play. We want to provide good quality. Like we do with the cars and stuff like that. And so it's definitely a whole different vibe. And I think when you, for example, go to the UK, it's like a different kind of thing, because in the UK it's such a big business factor. There's like dance music can also easily enter the charts and stuff like that. And then also when I see friends, they almost all have a manager. It's like super, like, it's almost like in pop music. It's so big. And then also when you go to France, it's different. The people, they have so many good producers. And it's more about the community there. And so I think each country has a different kind of vibe. And so what I noticed, as I said, in Berlin or in Germany, in general, we have a no photo policy, which is really nice. So I think the people that are just into the music, they really concentrate on dancing and like having a good time. And I liked it a lot. But then, yeah, of course, sometimes you go somewhere else and you play, and they have the phones, which I don't mind. I mean, it's like they go out, they're super happy to be somewhere, to see their favorite artists and stuff. And as long as they don't put the flashlight on and just put it right in my face, I'm fine with it. And I mean, sometimes, of course, I have to breathe in, you know. But what I think it's really funny sometimes is when you play, but it's mostly festivals, they're all staring at the DJ. And I'm like...
Oh, sorry, it feels like a concert vibe.
It's like a concert, yeah. And I don't know where this is coming from. I mean, it's like... And I feel like, okay, do they expect me to show them how to dance now? Or are they expecting me to do maybe some fire tricks or juggle, or in the worst case take my t-shirt off or something, you know? It's like...
Listen, all things have been done.
Yeah.
No,
but this is like a thing, I'm not 100%... I don't like it so much. It's like, okay, this is really strange. Yeah.
Do you think it has something to do with? I don't want to name those specific brands, but like all the recorded sets that are put on YouTube or like other. Yeah, I guess recorded sets is the best term. You know, where people discover, or number one, people listen to music that way. Mm-hmm. Instead of like maybe just listening to the mix, they now watch the actual set performed, and also that's how they discover new DJs. And then when they go to maybe a festival, they have that same mindset. Maybe that I don't know. It's not. I'm wondering. You know?
Yeah, I'm also just wondering where it's coming from. Maybe it's because I think, especially during the pandemic, I think it also started a few years before, that there's a new kind of promotion thing that came in. So back in the days, you recorded mixtapes, you recorded, I don't know, you made records to promote yourself, or also because you like to make music and stuff like that. And then since the age of the internet, there's like this visual promotion thing came up, and some people are really good at it and some are not so good at it, you know. And then and I think especially during COVID, when we only had these internet platforms where you could check out DJs, and I think especially for the younger generation that have never been in like a proper club, I'm not saying a festival, a commercial festival, it's more like a club, they don't know how to act, or they don't know what to do. They think like, okay, this is the DJ, this is the superstar, so I have to look at the person. And I mean, most of the time they don't even see what the person is doing because they're all on the stage, you know, so maybe, I don't know, maybe someone should tell them not to turn around. I don't know.
No, but it's funny. I agree with you. That's my theory for the last, you know, when kind of things opened up here and the energy was crazy. I keep saying that. So if you've heard me say that before, I apologize. But it's my theory also where, you know, a lot of maybe younger folks, they kind of didn't have a chance really to learn gradually how to go out. Or
from like the older generation.
Or like watching the older generation. And now they... Like you said, that was the only way. Okay.
Yeah. We also had a funny situation. I played last year. I played somewhere. It was also a smaller club. I cannot remember the city, but also my husband was with me. And so it started, and it was just like started to fill up. So I was the second DJ, or like the third one. No, it was the second one, and people just came in. But it was really funny because the DJ booth was here, and people. They stood like 1 or 2 meters in front of the DJ booth as if I was trying to bite them or something, or it was almost, because the club was so small and you could really feel like they're super shy, and then they like secretly filmed what I was doing, and then Carsten, my husband, he was like, it was so funny, it almost looked like you do a presentation of like how you mix. And I was like, oh, it's strange, you know?
Yeah.
That was strange. I mean, later, you know, I think when I had a few drinks,
cared less.
They cared less, I cared less, and then it was a proper party, but like the first half an hour I was like, okay, what's going on, you know?
That's funny, but I can see it, I see it. I have a question. So considering all the things that you do, right? You're a DJ, producer, you own a record store, you run the record store, you own 1, 2, 3, how many labels?
At the moment, only 2,
Only 2, okay. Your mom, your wife, all the things, how do you, and over the years, obviously, right? How have you maintained sanity, if I can say that? Like, how do you maintain to keep things going, not just like economically, but also yourself, and not lose? I don't want to sound it. Yeah, I don't want to sound it too cliche, like lose yourself. You know, some self-help kind of thing. But like, it's a lot. You know, so I'm wondering, is there anything that you do specifically, that you do consciously, or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did way more before, stuff you didn't really see because it happened in the background. Like, I also did my own taxes and stuff like that, you know, and I was like, and you probably know how it is in Germany. It's like, so you need to print everything, and I was like, no, I can do it all my own. And then, you know, then when I was in a relationship, and my husband was like, why don't you look for help, you know? And I was like, yeah, but I don't know, I'd rather do it myself, because sometimes I had the mentality, if I'm not doing it myself, you know, no one else can do it better. So he was like, no, it's time you lose, you know, and you get gray hair from it because you're like freaking out from like copying all the invoices and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. So that was the first thing I sourced out. Then also for the shop, I was packing all the records on my own. Now I have help, my partner's helping me. Then we hired a couple of people. But for me, it was very hard to give responsibility to other people, because of the fact I thought there's no one better than me that can do the stuff. And also when you have your own company and your own name and you give your face for things, you want to have things done correctly, because people always remember the bad things, even though you did 3 million good things. You do one thing wrong, you miss one record, and they cannot do anything.
Especially when you're a woman.
Yeah, shitty job, or you know, you do something where it's like, yeah, women can't mix, you know, and all the stuff, you know how it is. And so, yeah, but now I have a really good team, and I source some stuff out, and I really try to concentrate on the most important things, which is like the family, of course, and then. Yeah, like making music in the studio, and then like playing at the weekends, and yeah, also try to do a bit of sport to feel good in my body, and I think it's also good for your brain, and it gives you serotonin. Is that an English word?
It sounds like an English word, yeah, and I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I don't know how to pronounce it correctly either,
yeah.
So. Wait for the text on the bottom.
Yeah. So yeah, I think doing sports and also making music, and then it's also really good for your mind to have a project, finish the project, and then you release it, and people like it, and then you're like, well done, to myself. Yeah. And it's and that's also why I never like used a ghost producer, even though it would have been maybe like faster and maybe better and stuff. And I was like, no, I want to do this myself, even though it takes longer, but then it's really my work, you know. And I mean, also might have some tracks which, you know, when I look back, it's like, oh my God, what did I do there? You know, now I would do things like differently, but it's really good when you play your track to a crowd and they like really freak out and they know the track. And I think this is good for your mental health, and that's something I always try to do, you know, keep my mind fresh and like, just do good things to myself. Yeah.
Was there ever? I try not to point out the negative things, but I'm wondering, within a long career, I can imagine that some, you know, things go up and down, as in life. But wondering if there ever was a time, for whatever reason, where you were like, I think I'm done. Like especially since I know you always had a job, right? Yeah. So was there ever a time or anything that particular that led to maybe you thinking, I'm done with whatever, the industry or just you being in music or anything?
Yeah, I pretty much have it every 3 months, I think.
Okay, well.
I have this one weekend and, you know, I'm like, this is shit. I just throw everything out of the window. My studio, the music is shit, right? DJing is crap, you know, and I think it's mostly when I'm stressed then, and usually I'm super chilled, you know, I have very thick nerves, but I think especially after COVID, like the traveling got so hard, you know, and then also from Berlin, it's such a provincial airport, so you can reach like the main cities with a direct flight, but then also there's a lot you have to change in Frankfurt or in Munich, and that makes an actual 2-hour journey makes it suddenly like 4 hours or 6 hours. And I mean, imagine you could also fly from Frankfurt to New York in like 6 hours, and then you're less stressed because it's just you're in the plane and you fly, you know. And yeah, I think that's sometimes quite stressful. And also I had a lot of, especially now in the holiday time, we had so many delays, canceled flights, and then I'm not even starting to talk about the bad German trains. And my God, this is, I don't know, this company. It's, yeah, and then it's like, you know, I have to be really like, okay, breathing in, breathing out. That's actually the most stressful part, because, I mean, DJing and stuff I enjoy so much, but sometimes I wish I could just, you know, beam me up and I'm gonna be, I don't know, in Brussels or in Paris or something, and then, yeah, sometimes you also fly somewhere, and then, especially, for example, Paris, when you fly there on a Friday, then you have the Friday afternoon traffic, then it takes like another 1 or 1.5 hours in the car, and you're like, okay, and that can be quite stressful, and I would say every 3 months I really have enough, and then I need to reset, but usually I try to go to the studio the whole week, and then it's like calming me, and then I come back and I'm like, okay, I think I keep my stuff. I'm not throwing it out of the window.
Okay. Talking about your label, 803 Crystal Grooves.
Yes,
Is
correct.
that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. And that is, so I understand correctly, that is only for your own productions? Okay.
Yes.
So because I was going to ask, like, how do you, if it's only for your own productions, how do you, is it strictly like whatever you feel like you put on there, or do you still like, is it for a certain sound in a way? And I know you know for house music, but yeah, my question is just like, how do you decide what you put on there versus maybe on a different label, or something that, you know, you get asked to do an EP on a different label? Like, how do you decide that?
Yeah, so I never do tracks that would fit to a certain kind of label, because I think that people want tracks from you because they want your sound, and not that you suddenly say, oh, this and that label requested some tracks, so I make them sound exactly what they have already released 100 times.
Okay.
You know. So I think you should always be yourself. And what I always try to do, I mean, obviously I'm well known for house music. My house music has so many like different vibes. It can be like disco house, it can be like deep house, it can be like big room piano house. You can also have Detroit house or like proper Chicago stuff, which you can pitch up, also play in a techno set, you know. And yeah, so when I make music, I try to make sure that every track sounds different, so and every track stands out. And then also when I make an EP, it's what I'm currently feeling. So for example, what I'm currently playing, when I play more like pumping music, you know, I'm like, oh, maybe I should try a track like this. Or then also whatever, I'm a big Carrie Chandler fan, and at the moment in the studio I'm like more into this deeper groovy vibe, you know, soulful vibe. And so I make usually like 2-3 tracks, and then I always try to add one more track people wouldn't really expect from me. So I had one like 135 footwork track on the last EP I did for Heist Music, for the Dutch label, and people were like, okay, I didn't expect that. And then it was also really funny because my husband, he's good friends with Ricardo Villalobos, and they had this New Kids on Acid party in Watergate in Berlin. And then after he texted, my husband was like, oh my God, your girlfriend, funny, wife, this track is so good, and he was like really going crazy about it. I played it even twice, and I was like, okay, that's something I didn't expect, you know. But sometimes these people, they also like these like tracks they wouldn't really expect from me, you know. So just to show them that I can also do other things than just the typical piano house stuff, yeah.
I'm wondering, since I really don't know, I know software developer can mean so many different things, and I personally, I'm just so far removed.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it has helped in any shape or form in you producing music. In what way has it helped? Meaning, maybe I should clarify the question. Maybe it's working. Yeah, the process more so of like. Maybe I should ask the question later. But I'm wondering, you know, we do a lot of stuff with computers. If we don't use hardware, if we don't use machines, so I'm wondering if in any way your profession as a software developer had any advantages on you being or becoming a music producer?
I think the developer stuff not so much, but then in a way, because I'm also good at mathematics, and I think music is also some kind of mathematics. So I think that's, I mean, lots of people that say it's like your brain works in the same way, and there's also people like what's his name, Caribou or Daphne, like the producer.
It rings a bell, but I'm not. It does. I don't have any.
Yeah. He's more around with these people like what's his other name, with Fortet and people like that, more like the British, you know, this British group, and they're all like super smart, like mathematic guys, you know, and they make amazing music. And also when Caribou, when he released his first album, it was like, wow, so mind blowing. And I was reading an article about it, and he said, yeah, I'm a I don't know, professor, or he studied it or something, and it works, yeah, mathematics work in the same way as music works, you know. So, and I was like, wow, this is interesting, because yeah, I'm also good at mathematics, so I don't know, so maybe that helped. But the background as a developer, it's different, but then obviously working for Ableton helped also a lot, because I know the software inside out, and I know what to do. It's not like
not like me. Okay, got it.
No.
I'm making fun of myself.
Yeah, you know. But I was the same, you know. In the beginning, I mean, I started producing in 1999, so there was no YouTube, no nothing. I couldn't ask any friends, you know, and I believe I was also using a bass line as a kick drum, you know, and I was like, this sounds really weird, you know. But I couldn't ask someone, you know. And but it's funny, because it's learning by doing, and I think most producers from the old school producers, they did it that way. And of course nowadays you have like 3 million videos every day on YouTube, and they explain you how to do it and stuff. So it's much easier. Yeah.
I actually wanted to ask you about this, and I'm generally, again, I'm not a person who wants to pinpoint about female producers, male producers, but it is a known fact that there's still way less female producers than male producers. DJs, slowly but surely, right? There's definitely more. However, with production, it's more men than women, even though now there's easier access to equipment, and like you said, the know-how how to use the equipment is much more accessible. I'm wondering what your reasoning is on like why that's still the case, even though it's more accessible, and then if you have any ideas of like what could be done to get more of us out there.
Yes, I think we should give away more knowledge. And for example, also in Berlin, I see a lot of these like DJ courses, you know, free, you want to become a DJ, come around, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, nice, but I also think, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I think like there's already enough DJs, you know. Now we need people that make the music. So, and I'm like, okay, why don't we do something like this? But of course, I think the learning curve is much slower, and it takes longer to have success. And some people, they're like, okay, this is, I don't know, I give up, this is not for me, you know, because you will fail a lot when you produce music, you know, and for some people it's not like that. And maybe it's also a bit of like education, because I mean, this is also from like back in the days. I mean, for men it was more like, okay, they do more the tech stuff, and like the women, when they work more in like families and like whatever, cleaning, cooking with the kids and stuff like that. So it's not so common, but I think this is also changing. For example, when I studied software development, there was only another girl and me between all the guys. And that's also changing now, and I think they always said, we want to have more women, women. And then I was like, we'll make it more interesting for them, you know, just tell them the advantages that when you do software development, you can have like any kind of job, you can work everywhere in the world. The women are super independent, and I think it's the same with production. I mean, with DJing, you can, even though when you're like whatever the best DJ in the world, your career only lasts so long. If you don't have something to always give another push to your career, then I think after some years it goes down. And then also, what are you doing when you're getting older, when you're getting retired? You know, when you because when you're 25, you're not thinking about that, but there will be the time you're gonna turn 40, you're gonna turn 50. Do you really wanna travel that much? Do you really want to have that stress? Do you really want to stay out like every weekend? You know, it gets really harder. Like, believe me, believe an old woman. No, just kidding. But yeah, to have a sustainable career in music, I think it's also good when you produce, because then you have later a passive income from like the royalties in the best case. And this is something I'm doing now. And yeah, I mean, I also see it with my daughter. She's also really good with like technical things and computers. And I think it's just from my education. So I make sure that she can do whatever she wants to. And I mean, some people are like, yeah, don't give my kid a phone until she's like 15. It's like, yeah, fine, but I mean, they live in this world, you know, and if you take it away from them, they will struggle later, you know. I mean, you can always count the times and stuff and the hours. And yeah, so to come back to your questions, how can we make it more interesting for girls? This might maybe sound funny, but when you think about production, you always see like some dudes, you know, like smoking a split and being in the studio and just trying to crank out some tracks. It's not really like a girly thing, you know.
Sounds funny, but it's true.
Yeah, and it's also funny because I'm in a studio complex and they have like 100 studios, and there's a handful of women, you know. And then you come in, you see all the guys, you know, with the long hair, and it was like, you know, a bit like, I don't know, it was like smoking and, you know, just whatever, having a really like a man cave there, whatever. And it's not for girls. I don't know. It's yeah, it's really hard to explain. It's yeah, we just have to make it interesting, and also maybe convince the woman that it's not so hard to learn, and that it's also not bad to fail, and then no one will laugh about them. You know, I think that's also something maybe. Especially young women, they're maybe insecure and they maybe think, oh, if I ask someone and I make a mistake, that people are laughing about me. It's no, this is more the opposite. The guys are actually super happy to help you. You know, that's my opinion. You know, I never had someone like, you want to make music with your boobs? No, you can't do that. You know, so it's everyone's super happy to help. Yeah.
Do you like mentor or have maybe in the past mentored people, not women or guys, or do you have people reach out to you asking for help?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I have a lot of people. They're always asking, how did you do this and how did you do that? So I do a lot. Yeah, especially on Instagram, I send them like little clips. How I did this bass line, or how to get more groove in their tracks, and so this is more like background work, but. It's also another thing I would really like to do maybe in a few years when I'm also, you know, a bit older. And I did a thing it was a production course taking place in Ibiza, and I was one of the teachers, and I have to say, I loved it. It was so cool, because it was people, you know, from they never made a track in their life, they just started. And then also some people were a bit more advanced, but you could give them their advice. And then I mean, some made nice tracks, but it was just like this one information they needed to make it groovy, you know? And they're like, yeah, true, now it's so easy, you know? And I really like that, you know, to help the people. And I think this is also something I want to do more in the future, maybe in a more official way. So now I start more doing some videos for the studio, so we have some tips for everyone that can also like follow it like easily, and hopefully, and I mean, I also get a lot of messages from women, oh, this is so cool, how you're doing it, and I always try to encourage them to try themselves, or if they have questions, they can always send me the track. I mean, I think like some are very shy, they're like, nah, it's not so good, but it's like, yeah, but it's not about you sending me bomb tracks, because then I can't help you, you know. It just send me something, I give you some tips, and then you could use them for the next one, you know. It's all about getting better, and it's not that I'm laughing about something, you know. It's, yeah.
I think it's in the ingrained perfectionism generally, where I might be completely lying with what I'm saying, but I'm thinking that guys generally, they have this, they just try, and whatever comes out, and sometimes, you know, and for us, it always has to be perfect if we, you know, or if we do it, it has to be perfect in order for it to be out there. Yeah. So maybe
I was also like this, right? You know, when I did the first tracks, and then I was also in a crew of guys, and I mean, they came from hip hop, so they did music since they were 6, you know. And I mean, I started making music when I was 19, and I was alone, you know. I was not in this group of guys. And whenever we had a meeting, like, okay, we do the next release, and I'm like, okay, these are my tracks, and I was like, you know, getting really small in the chair. And then, but you could really feel after some time, like, wow, you really made a progress. And I was like, was super proud. And then the more you do, the more confident you get. And I think that's something we have to teach the kids, or especially my daughter, to make her really like confident about things. And because she had the same thing, that she was like, nah, I don't want to do this because I'm so bad. And I was like, yeah, but this is not for people that are already perfect. It's like for people that want to learn certain things, and yeah, maybe that's something needs to change in education anyway, to empower the women a bit more. Yeah.
You kind of answered this question here.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you if you have maybe a general piece of advice for somebody who wants to start out now, right? Even though, again, information is available online, but sometimes it's really just a small detail, or on the technical side, but then also something maybe on the industry side, or like on the emotional side, something that after all these years you can say, hey, this is something that you should look out for, that pay attention to.
You mean now from in general, or from the production side?
Either DJing or production, whichever one.
I don't know. I would always say try to be true to yourself. Just play the music you want, and just try not to follow the trends, because trends come and go, and then you don't want to play music you don't like just for the sake of it. And then also with production, you really need to get knowledge, not so much about producing the tracks, but also what you have to claim. Because I also had to learn it the hard way, because I was signed to like quite a big label at the end of the 90s. And then they also had some really big compilations, and I had my track on one or two of them. And then years later, like 10, 12, 15 years later, I met a friend of mine who's really good with like royalties, and you have to claim this and that. And he checked and was like, how much money did you get? And I was like, I think they gave me 200 euros. And he was like, they ripped you off. Like, you should have given like 10K or something. I was like, what? And it's just because you don't know it.
Or the business side.
The business side. You really need to learn the business side and what you're worth, and what your music is worth, and where to claim, and not just be like, they gave me like 50 euros. That's fine. It's like, no. You need to give me 5K, because the track is going to sell. My other EPs, they're sold, so now,
Okay. One question that I have in regards to the DJing and producing connections, right? They're very related. One goes hand in hand. However, it's two different sides of the brain that we use, either DJing or producing music. And you mentioned that having your own music releases, or putting your own music out, gives you a income or like a longer career. However, I do have a question in regards to an opposite view, where my view is, or I've noticed that sometimes DJs produce not only, but so with the goal of like getting more DJ gigs. So my question, and I personally think just because you're a good producer does not mean you're necessarily a great DJ.
True.
Would you then say that you have to, how did I write this down? You have to produce your own music in order to get DJ gigs, or in order to get an agent to get those DJ gigs?
I think it's not like that anymore. I think back in the days it was more like, it was different. So the deals were mostly made in the record stores, because you met people from the industry there. And I think for us was also, I was playing a lot, and then at some point I was like, now I wish I had this and that kind of track. And you're like, maybe I should try making it myself, and then you try. Of course it didn't work. And so it was more like the nurture step. While now it's like people don't seem to have time, they decide to become a DJ, and then the next day it's like, okay, DJ, what can I do? What can I do to get gigs? Okay, I need to start producing as well. So it's not like the nurtured stuff, or you first develop like your sound, or you have a crowd or something. The people want everything now, like we can download everything now, whatever we want. And so that's definitely different. But nowadays I think you don't necessarily have to produce to be booked worldwide. I mean, there's people that have whatever, they had a nice boiler room, and some agents really saw the talent, or the boiler room really blew up with like 1 million plays. So that's what I was also saying, like before, we have this new kind of promotion tool, which is like the visibility in some kind of streaming platforms and stuff like that. So, and some people are really good in using it, or some people are super lucky. I mean, that's also when you have a career, you need this kind of luck to really make it. I mean, there's a lot of good people out there, but it's only a few that are very lucky to, you know, get a booker, to have this kind of success. And yeah, and then I see, you know, some people, whatever, they blew up on Her, or they blew up on Boiler Room or Mixmaker, whatever kind of streaming that was out. Then they get a booker, they play on all the festivals, maybe for 1 or 2 years, and then you can also see it, then it goes down, you know. And then I'm like, okay, so they either do some interesting back-to-back, but what else can you do as a DJ, you know? And I'm not saying you have to produce, I'm just saying if you really wanna be a musician, then it's the next step, you know, and don't force it, just do it when you feel like it. And I mean, sometimes it needs time, sometimes your DJ gigs go down, you might have to get another job or something. But I think that, yeah, it goes hand in hand, and if you want to have a long career, and also when you look back to like the OGs that are still around, it's like Richie Horton was always a producer as well, you know, Steve Buck, who else was there? God, my brain is empty. No, but Nina Kravitz, I mean, she also produced a lot of music, you know, and that pushed her to the level where she was, because she was not only like a good DJ, and she had always had a mega good selection and stuff like that, but she also produced, and that put her to the level where she was, you know. And then, yeah, and then there's some other people. I think most people that really have a successful career over years, over decades, they also produce, or maybe they have whatever, decorate something like a DJ kicks, or whatever, like a fabric mix, or whatever is out there, you know, something where you don't necessarily have to produce, but you know, you also give your knowledge. So yeah.
Okay, you just mentioned the two words next step, so I'm wondering if for your future, what are some of the next steps, or some of the projects that you can or want to share already that you have coming in the future, which I saw, if I saw it correctly, was it this year that you're playing with DJ Minx in New Year's? This sounds back to back. If I can say it already, oops, sorry.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out,
we can say that. Yeah.
Which so this is a two-part question. Number one, some of the projects that you have coming up, and since I just mentioned DJ Minx, and given the fact that Detroit was a place that we met in person the first time.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
What is your connection to Detroit, or how is your connection to Detroit?
I think for some reason, I always had a good connection to I call them the OGs, you know, no matter if it was like Paul Johnson, we were super close, then Mike Huckabee, then, also to Detroit, because, you know, I know all the history and stuff like that, and for us kids in Europe, you know, those were the gods, you know, when they came, especially, I mean, Treasure played a big role with this kind of connection, Detroit and Berlin, and they're still calling each other brothers, you know, and even though there was one white person and whatever, 10 black people, and, you know, so, and I don't know, in Minx, I always admired her, so a couple of times playing at Panorama Bar, and then I think it was also her management that reached out to me to do a remix. And then also the idea came up to play together. And we also played together for the first time at TV Lounge in Detroit.
Doing Movement, right?
Yeah, doing movement, yeah. So, and then of course they asked again, and then also I did a remix for Inner City, and then also I did a remix for Frankie Knuckles, which is also crazy. And also I did remix the first ever house track, which was by Jesse Saunders, On and On. And I'm like, this is cool. And then on that remix EP I did for Jesse Saunders, there was also Paul Johnson did a remix, and he wrote me after, and he was like, "Girl, I think you're the only one that's not from Chicago, but you sound so much like Chicago," you know. And I was like, "What?" You know, it's like, and you know, I don't know what it is. It's just like, also I think Sheda Mir was writing me once, and I need to check the message again. And he was like, "Yeah, girl, you're really house music," and I was like, "Oh, this is cool," you know. And I don't know what it is. It's maybe the old school mentality or whatever. So I always had a strong connections to this.
The Midwest.
The Midwest and the origins, you know. And I don't know. And then also upcoming projects. Yeah, I play back to back with DJ Minx, which is funny. Usually I'm not so much into the back to backs, but with Minx, you know, it was really nice. It was also super cool. I think we were vibing a lot. And then obviously I have my live project, which I wanna get better with. So playing my own tracks live. This is another thing I did already, but I want to get better. And yeah, ideally so my plan is ideally to maybe have a weekend off every 2 weeks and just spend more time in the studio writing music. I'm doing the second album now, which will hopefully be released next year. But yeah, of course, it needs time in the studio. So, and then, I mean, maybe in the next 10, 15 years, shift more and more over to the production kind of side. And then, you know, when I'm 60, then I'm like, oh, I don't want to play so much anymore, or whatever. I mean, let's
talk
see.
again when you're 60.
When I'm 60, maybe you're like, oh. No, I mean, this
Hope
is
not.
Yeah, no, but this is like an overall kind of plan. I mean, I love playing and traveling so much, but as I said before, I know it can also have an end, or you know, in some years you cannot do like 2 or 3 gigs per weekend anymore. And then I also want to have something like something where I can rely on, maybe do more like teaching or mentoring for other upcoming artists. And I think this is something I'm working hard on now, you know, in the studio to get better with the tracks, and then also have a good catalog I can collect royalties from later, and then also be good enough to teach other people how to make their own tracks, you know.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Sorry, this question was not on my list, but I'm wondering if your daughter ever expressed any hint where I'm like, I want to be a DJ, or
No.
like, no?
No.
Oh, you're shutting
No.
this down already?
No. No, oh, this sounded like I
It's
don't want
fine,
it.
you can end it with no, it's fine.
No. I mean, I wish she would have been a bit more interested, but I think it's just coming. I mean, she's gonna turn 15 now. She's more into pop music, or more into K-pop music, which is funny because they copy a lot from like the old dance music classics. You know, she showed me a track in the car, and I was like, hang on a second, that sounds familiar. And I was like, you got the Show Me Love, you know, from Robin S. And they just whatever bought or ripped the chords, whatever. And I'm like, okay, so this is also dance music. And then there's another band, it's called, what are they called? New Jeans. And they do, it's like a K-pop band, and they do more like two-step, almost like UK garage stuff. And I really liked this band. It was super cool, you know, with the vocals and the drums and stuff. And I was like, wow, I mean, this would be something I would play in the set, you know. And then, so finally I convinced my daughter to come to the studio with me, and we're gonna do a track like this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm very excited
so cool.
about it. Yeah, we have to find a date, but no, she doesn't wanna be a DJ. I think she has a good music taste, and she's just, you know, shaping up her music taste, and we don't know what's going to happen in 2 years. So probably she's also going to go clubbing, but I think that generation it's a different generation. Also with the COVID, I think the kids, they're more into staying at home now, you know, have their house parties, and yeah, but I mean, if she wants to be a DJ, then of course I would be, yeah, try. I mean, it's like give her the best advices, but at the moment she wants to be a lawyer, and I mean,
It's not bad either.
it's not so bad, you know. Yeah, so let's see.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's my second to last question, and which is usually the hardest, because I ask this every guest. Can you name me 3 tracks that remind you or you associate with dance? Which for DJs usually horribly hard because there's too many to name. But are there like 3 of your favorites that you play or you like to hear when from other DJs?
Yeah. I mean, I would say there's definitely Atmosphere from Carrie Chandler is always like, you know, it's like I get goosebumps when it's like, you know, you're on the floor like this, like, yeah. Then, I mean, there's also the classic like Steve Still Curly, like Move Your Body, that always, you know, is gonna shake your hips. And then there's also a lot of stuff from Germany, like Boris Dlugosch, Hold Your Head Up High. He's from Hamburg. It's like also a classic from the 90s, and yeah, now I can even remix something from him, which I'm super like flattered about. Yeah, and yeah, there's many tracks. Yeah, I think it's mostly the old classics, or what else can I say? Yeah, it's mostly tracks from like Carrie, or maybe Chez Damier. Can You Feel It, or stuff like this. And
yeah, the classics.
The classics, yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And to end it off, is there anything that I haven't asked you about that, or I have touched on, but you want to talk to a little bit more, or like get off your chest something that you know, some of your observations throughout your career, or like lately that you've seen on the dance floor, since it's called Dance to the Music? And when you walked in here, so just again, we're in the dance studio space, right? And when you walked in here, you said, oh, this reminds me of my dance career.
Which lasted 2 hours.
No, I'm just kidding, but it was really cute. So my question just is anything that I'm like, I actually want to speak about, you know, because it comes to mind more often nowadays than it used to.
Yeah. No, actually, no. I think we touched all the points in my life, what I'm doing and stuff like that. And yeah, but there's one thing I really want to learn, and I found someone really good on Instagram. It's about I would love to learn voguing, you know, or like at least like express like this. And I found someone, and I think she explains it in a really easy way to learn. And I think this could be like another goal, you know, to have a bit more.
There's people in Berlin that teach, so
yeah, maybe I should go, because you know sometimes when I see videos of me, it's just I do the typical German dance, you know, I just wobble from one leg to the other, and it's like doesn't sound.
It's called the German wobble from now
yeah,
on.
you're like, you know, like this. Then you do this. It's a really. So maybe I want to have this, not to do a performance, of course, you know, but just
for your personal,
for my personal satisfaction. And yeah, it just reminded me the studio here to my 2 hours dance career. So my daughter, she wanted to dance. I said, okay, let's do like a K-pop dance class. And we had a song, and I mean the first part was really good, but then it got really tough. I don't know. I couldn't really follow the steps, because then I was like doing stuff with the hands and doing stuff with the foot, and actually it was okay. But then they put the music on. The music was so fast, and I was like, ugh. And I felt like, you know, between all the kids, you know, I was like so embarrassed, you know. And then I had to turn around, and they already finished, and then I was only halfway through, and so I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be a dancer, you know. But it was a good experience, and maybe I want to do something more like this, you know.
Yeah, no, there's definitely the good thing is there's nowadays there's a dance community in pretty much every city. Yeah, and I know Berlin really nice, definitely for sure. Yeah. So that was it. Thank you so much again for coming, for taking the time and talking to us. Cycling over. Yeah, I was like, wow, very sporty. Yeah. Props to you and your husband. You. Yeah. And have a great gig at Public Records.
Thank you so
much. And
much.
enjoy your time in New York.
I will. Thanks so much for having me.
No, thank you for coming.
Yes.
Bye. And everybody listening again, please, I don't know, I said it before, please subscribe or just hit the like button. It's all free. I don't have a Patreon or all these other platforms where you pay in order to get the content. This is all free, so a like would be nice. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Bye-bye.